Hey there. So it is time to talk about gut health. Yes, gut health is one of these subjects that in the fitness industry right now is gaining a lot of popularity. You might hear a lot of people telling you all this stuff about gut health, how important it is to take certain supplements, how important it is to do certain things with your nutrition. But what actually is the truth? What actually is the thing or things that you need to know in order to have good gut health? And do you even need to care? So let's break it all down and give you it in bite-sized, digestible chunks. And yes, I did mean that pun. So for me right now, gut health is kind of one of the new things on the block and unfortunately subject to a little bit of bro science. Now, the truth behind gut health is that it's still very much in its infancy. We don't really know that much about our gut health, and we don't really know a tremendous amount to be like black and white on the topic. We can't say this is definitely the case on this topic or definitely the case on that topic, or this is true and that's not true. Some things we can, some things is a bit of a gray area and needs more research. So when you find someone like an Instagram guru, we like to pick on those people, that is really, really cut and dry, black and white about this topic, you could probably really hazard a guess that they are maybe that sort of guru mentality and adopting a little bit of modern day bro science. So always be a little bit cautious about who you listen to, who you follow on these types of subjects. Someone that is coming across as, well, we kind of don't really know this, and maybe it's to do with this, and maybe it's to do with that, is probably actually telling you the truth. Whereas someone who is very, very hard line, very black and white on the topic, maybe is not giving you the full picture or is blowing out what they know up into maybe something that it's not. Now, if you want someone to follow on this particular topic who is good, my recommendation is Dr. Megan Rossi, which is at the Gut Health Doctor on Instagram. She is one of the leading researchers into this topic and gives out a ton of good information on Instagram. So definitely go give her a follow if you want to know more about the detail behind gut health and this type of topic. And she always gives good tips on how to improve gut health as well. So she's definitely a good person to go and follow and listen to. So let's first of all break down what some of the key gut health issues are and how they actually like manifest themselves into your day-to-day life. Because there's some that you're actually going to have heard of, but you may not know how to actually combat them, or if you've got those particular issues. So first off, let's start with the classic IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. Yes, this whole podcast, this whole little video is going to be all about basically, how well you shit or not. So IBS is like a group of symptoms. It's not necessarily a disease. So if you've got IBS, you're suffering with maybe ab pain, you've got the shits, you've got bloating, you're farting your ass off. Now that might just be normal kind of behavior for your average dude who's just kind of creating a nice Dutch oven of an evening for his partner to consume, let's say. But it could also be a sign, if it's maybe more chronic, maybe more serious, that there is some IBS issues going on there. Then you've got a different version of irritable bowel, and that's irritable bowel disease. Now that's going to be something a bit more diagnosable, so like Crohn's disease or something like that, where it's very, very similar type of symptoms to IBS, but you're going to get some inflammation of your digestive tract. You've got a loss of appetite, probably weight loss, swollen joints, that type of thing. And you're really going to need some sort of doctor intervention to actually diagnose that. You're not going to come to a nutritionist or a PT and then tell you you've got irritable bowel disease. That's just not going to happen. You've then got something called celiac disease, which you may have heard of if you're gluten intolerant. You will definitely have heard of that because that's what that is. So you've got this intolerance to this sort of family of proteins called gluten, which is found mainly in wheat products and things like that. So if you are one of the 0.5 to 1% of people that have celiac disease, then you have an intolerance to gluten. That is also going to be a GP intervention to get you tested for that and get you properly diagnosed with that particular condition. Now, a lot of people think they are gluten intolerant, when actually, as I just said, 0.5 to 1% of the population is gluten intolerant. So very, very small amount. Now, you'll get those people who trundle into their posh coffee shop in some swanky parts of some swanky city somewhere in the world and look through everything. They interrogate the poor dude or dudette behind the counter about what's got gluten in it, all these sorts of things, and blah, 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 because all feel a little bit gassy, a little bit bloaty and things like that. It's the gluten. It's probably not the gluten, to be fair, because most people just aren't gluten intolerant. They haven't got celiac disease. You can go get tested for it. So rather than think that you have it, you can actually go get tested for it. So instead of grilling that person, trying to be that girl or guy who is, doing that gluten-free thing that annoys everybody, you can actually go get tested for it. Now, there is something called non-celiac gluten sensitivity, which you can't really get tested for, so this is people who feel they've got a sensitivity to gluten. Now, this is, again, I'm not going to be hugely black and white on this. This is a bit of a gray area. So there's some research to say that it's not a thing, but it might be a bit too early to be totally in the camp of it's not a thing. It might be a thing. We just don't know really. So you could have this non-celiac gluten sensitivity. So if you are the person who you just want to steer clear of gluten because it makes you feel better, then cool, then go for that. But it might not be a thing. So let's not get too hung up about it. Now, IBS, just goes flip back to that, is more common in females than it is in men. And you kind of really have to treat the symptoms and the mechanism. So what's causing that IBS? You might go through a process of an elimination diet by removing certain foods from your current day-to-day diet, stripping your diet back to real bare basics and very bland. It's a very boring process to go through an elimination diet. Very, very boring, very, very difficult as well, kind of mentally to kind of stick to this thing for a period of time. But you get your diet right back to a basic level of food that you can start to control. And you do that for a number of weeks. And then what you would do is start to reintroduce certain foods. So let's say, for example, you've stripped out dairy from your diet. And now you start to reintroduce some dairy products into your diet and see what impact that has. Because you only really want to change that one variable. You don't want to push in a ton of different foods back into your diet at the same time, because then you're not going to be able to tell what's potentially caused an issue for you. So logically and systematically, you're going to eliminate foods from your diet, get your diet back to a bare basics. It's going to be boring. It's going to be fucking atrocious. But bear with it. If you've got an issue to sort out, it's worth doing. And then you're going to logically and systematically introduce certain foods back into your diet. And basically, you're just going to be a guinea pig for yourself. You're going to be the rat in the lab in this situation to test what works for you. Because one of the things that you'll come out with from the end of this little bit of training is that everybody pretty much is an individual. So individual responses to all these different sorts of things. And because we can't be so hard and fast with the rules around what is and what isn't happening in terms of gut health, it's very individual. You've got to treat every individual as their own unique set of circumstances. So there are obviously some broad brush things you can try and you can do, but you have to understand that your symptoms may be very, very different from your friend or the dude on the internet. So again, like, treat some of this advice with a little bit of caution. One route you might go down is a low FODMAP diet. And somebody thinking, what the fuck is a FODMAP? Now, I'm going to read this because I had to write it down to remember all of the technical terms. But FODMAP stands for fermentable, oligosaccharide, disaccharide, monosaccharide, and polyols. And basically, they're like simple glucose, basically, is what we're talking about here in most of those cases. And going low FODMAP on that may help with some digestive issues, some gut health issues. Now, you can go online and get lists of foods that are high in FODMAP, low FODMAP, and then you can kind of start to eliminate those from your diet. Again, you're going through this process potentially of, you're stripping things back and then you're reintroducing to see what works for you. And that can kind of really work for some people. So when we're talking about all these different sorts of oligosaccharides and things like that, oligosaccharides, kind of think starches. If you're thinking disaccharides, you're thinking like your sucrose and your lactose. Monosaccharides, you're going glucose and fructose. Polyols are like sugar alcohols. And sometimes sugar alcohols are difficult to understand what is a sugar alcohol. Now, a sugar alcohol is kind of like, it's like a sweetener basically, but not all sweeteners are sugar alcohols. So if you look at the back of a packet of something that's probably got artificial sweeteners in it, if the ingredient ends in ol, it's probably a sugar alcohol. So that's the easy way to remember it. And so if you're trying to do this, trying to follow a low FODMAP diet where you're trying to reduce some of these things to improve your gut health, and you're not quite sure if this has got a sugar alcohol in it, I don't fucking know. Look at the back of the packet. Does any of the ingredients end in ol? If they do, it's probably a sugar alcohol. So therefore, might want to steer clear of it. That's kind of it. Now, if you go through that FODMAP process, you're on a low FODMAP diet, you're just trying to use this process to assess if this is actually working for you. You don't just follow it blindly. Look at, the symptoms that you had coming into that process. Are they starting to improve? Are your bowel movements starting to firm up, let's say, if that was an issue before? You're a bit runny in the back end, let's say. Again, like assess what's happening. What are you changing with your diet, and what effect is that actually having on your digestive health, on your gut health, and then start to make logical decisions. So you might not want to follow this low FODMAP diet forever. You might not want to follow these elimination diets forever. In fact, you definitely don't want to follow these elimination diets forever, because you'll almost be on the verge of blowing your fucking brains out because you would have such little choice in your diet. So don't be scared to try foods. You might have an adverse reaction to that food that you tried, but at least you're getting to the point where you know that definitely was a food that caused you some issues. So be systematic with it. Don't be frightened that this thing may take time for you to actually nail down what type of foods are causing you problems and which ones aren't. But do go through that process. Take that time to learn more about your body, more about the things that are affecting you and affecting your specific gut health. Remember, if you take anything away from this, it is that you are an individual and your gut health is probably very, very much different to somebody else's, apart from a few broad brush things, which is what we're moving on to right now. So if you need to, or you want to, or you're thinking about improving your gut health, then obviously there are some things that you can do. Overall nutrition is going to be a good starting point. So if you are the type of person that is looking like their diet is based on Pop-Tarts, Cheerios, cereal, and protein shakes all day, then probably you might have some issues at some point along the road. If it fits your macros, is a great concept, but sometimes, you really do need to look at actual health and nutrition at some point in that journey. Now, obviously, if you're trying to lose weight, clearly calories are the most important thing. You need to get that foundation right first. 100% agree with that. But also, once you've got that foundation in place, a lot of people just stop. They stop and they think, well, okay, I've got the calorie bit done. I've got that nailed. I'm making progress. That's it. I'm just going to focus on calories. But actually, health is a multifaceted different thing. You're looking at in terms of your environment, you're thinking in terms of your exercise, you're thinking in terms of your nutrition, and you're really building this up to be a completely healthy individual. So just stopping at calories is kind of nonsensical. You need to then start to progress things from there. As your ability to manage a calorie deficit, maintenance, or surplus starts to improve, you need to then build on that with more understanding of good nutrition. And that's going to come with food choices. It's going to become with how nutritious your diet is and all of these different sorts of things. So make sure that you're not just stopping at that first point, which is super important, which is calories. You are also building on top of that. Now, what we're going to start with is some simple things that you can kind of think about if maybe you've got some gut health issues or you're feeling like you might have some gut health issues. What are some of the evidence-based things that you could be doing or thinking about in terms of changing your diet? Now, the first thing is caffeine. Now, I love a fucking coffee. I love a little double espresso, maybe a nice V60 or something like that. Yes, I have gone to complete coffee snob territory since going online with my fitness business, but I think it's code of the road. If you're an online entrepreneur and you're not drinking wanky coffee in some swanky coffee shop, then you're just not doing it properly. But caffeine is a gut irritant. It has an acidity level, which can cause, if consumed in enough quantity, some gut issues. It is a gut irritant. It speeds up gastric emptying and can cause you some issues. Basically, it will make things move faster, which could give you the shits. So there's a caffeine potential thing there. If you're just like really like consuming caffeine all the fucking time, maybe it's, you know, first thing in the morning, you're having like first grab is a coffee. Maybe you have 10 coffees throughout the day just to make it through work. Maybe, you know, like chocolate, that's got caffeine in it. Coke's got caffeine in it. All of these different things that have got caffeine in them. If you're really over consuming on those, then and have gut health issues, that would be like a key starting point, is to reduce that caffeine intake so that you've got that under control. And it's a quick win to just reduce that, go for lower caffeine options, maybe reduce your coffee intake, maybe some decaf. I know that's a fucking dirty word, but you could go for some decaf. Next up, stress and anxiety. So stress and anxiety can alter the central and the intrinsic nervous system. And in terms of actually what that manifests itself as, it would be like IBS type symptoms. So if you're very stressed, you've got a lot of anxiety, maybe work, maybe family life, all these different sort of things causing you a lot of stress, you might see that manifest itself into some form of like IBS style symptoms. So if you can reduce that stress and you can alleviate that anxiety, then that is going to help you in terms of those gut health issues, potentially. Again, you're using the symptoms to direct the treatment. So if someone says, you know, they're highly stressed and they've got gut health issues and they're consuming a lot of caffeine, these are already quick wins that you would kind of start to focus in on. They may resolve the issue, they may not, but they would be the first point to start at in most cases with those types of symptoms. So in terms of like other things that you could do, fish oil, we always talk about your omega-3s. They are definitely going to be a positive thing to look at here. They are anti-inflammatory. They help to reduce stress. So very beneficial in these types of circumstances. Also on top of that, exercise. So getting your ass to the gym, doing some exercise, even if it's just like walking or something like that, actually moving, doing some exercise is going to help you in these situations. But make sure that you avoid or potentially consider the effects of some strenuous endurance style events. They can give you, again, some like gut health issues. Also, for the drinkers out there, alcohol. Alcohol, sadly, is also going to be potentially a little bit of a cause of gut health issues. So you might have to reduce your alcohol consumption. I know you don't want to, but you may have to. Maybe fewer glasses of red wine in the week. Maybe don't go on an all-out bender at the weekend and then say Monday morning, oh yeah, I got a bit of a dicky dummy. You know, these things are linked, as they say. So remember that. One thing you can also try is a 36-hour fast. Now, this isn't like pure evidence-based in terms of research, but there are lots of cases where people have tried it with clients and tried it with patients, and it's worked. It's not necessarily been, purely defined in an evidence-based like clinical trial, but in terms of like anecdotal use with clients, it has worked to kind of reset things within the gut, to go on a 36-hour fast, strip things back, and then actually progress from there. So it might be a case that, that might be a quick win for you. If you do a 36-hour fast, it might sound like a lot, but actually, if you time it from, before you go to bed one evening, then you've obviously got, like 8 hours there. And then if you go through a 24-hour period and so on and so on and so on, then you could have this 36-hour fast to kind of reset everything for you. You can also look at some probiotics. Now, probiotics, you kind of have to not necessarily take the evidence with a pinch of salt, but you just have to understand that most of the evidence out there that is positive in terms of probiotics being good for gut health is funded by Yakult. Now, they sell probiotics. That doesn't mean to say that the evidence is shit. you just kind of have to maybe just have that in the back of your mind. It might be that the evidence is, yes, it's there, it's truthful, there's no sort of jiggery pokery going on, but maybe potentially it could be a little bit overblown. Who knows? But I think at this stage, you could say probiotics may have some support, but you probably need more evidence and more other research to happen in order for you to be 100% nailed to the mast that it's actually going to be beneficial. Now, probiotics have another use in terms of gut health. So if you have chronic use of antibiotics, so maybe you've been ill for a period of time and you've had an extended period of time on antibiotics, then that can cause you to basically 20% of patients who go on antibiotics for a chronic period of time will get the shits. Okay, we're not mincing our words here. 20% of people for an extended period of time on antibiotics will get the shits because it's changing your gut microbiota, which you must have heard on Instagram these days. It's a posh term. So basically what you can do with that, you don't really need to know all of the technical shit, for want of a better word, that's going on there. Really, if you have this extended period on an antibiotic, just supplement with some probiotics after you've come off those antibiotics to kind of reset everything for you. It's just a simple thing that you can do to kind of get things back on track. Some other things that you can look at, glutamine. So glutamine may help with gut issues, but the evidence is a little limited. So again, it's one of these things like glutamine is not that expensive as a supplement. If you're having some issues, I'd be going through all the caffeine, the alcohol, the omega-3s, all of these different types of things that are really low cost, easy solutions to look at. And then, for example, you might want to try some glutamine as well. Now, again, it might be a case that you want to try a few things first before trying everything. Because if you try everything, you never know what did actually work. And you could be, for the rest of your life, spending a fortune on supplements and stuff that didn't actually do anything. So you might want to say, okay, well, I'm going to reduce my caffeine intake and increase my omega-3s because they're like real easy solutions and you probably should do those anyway. What does that have? Does that relieve my symptoms? Yes, great. That's it. Leave it there. If it doesn't, okay, we'll try some of these other things, glutamine, whatever it is that you want to do. Another one sounds like it should be absolute fucking horseshit, but peppermint oil. Now, I really don't want this to be a thing. You know, in my soul, in my heart, I feel like recommending peppermint oil, I feel like I've turned into some fucking health guru talking out of my arse. But being the true evidence-based professional that I am and bowing to research and what the science says, there is some evidence to say it's beneficial. So get that fucking peppermint oil down your neck. It may help you. However, I feel like I can redeem myself on this guru track by telling you that there are some horseshit ones out there. Now, if someone tells you aloe vera is good for gut health, no, not. There's no evidence for that. If someone tells you curcumin is good for gut health, well, there's limited effect and limited evidence. So don't get too excited about your curcumin. Magnesium, no evidence for that in terms of gut health either. So yeah, there's a lot of people say like this supplement, that supplement, you should be doing this, doing that. And it's just a lot of it is based on hearsay and not really much evidence at all. So go back through those things that I just said and pick out the ones that really do show some strong evidence, run with those first, and then see where you're at. Try all of those different things that I just talked you through and see what works for you. Because the overall thing that you need to remember and you need to take away from this is that in terms of gut health, like as I explained at the beginning, we still don't know a hell of a lot about all of these different mechanisms and processes that are going on. The research is still going on. We need to adapt and change our views as that gets more prevalent and more evidence comes out that we can be sure about. So you can't really be like completely black and white about what's going on here. So remember that your gut health and you as an individual are just that, an individual. And you just need to apply some broad brush things to your nutrition and then start to get specific if you've still got potential issues. So things like weight loss, things like stopping smoking, reducing alcohol, potentially trying to reduce stress and anxiety, lower caffeine levels. All of these different sorts of things are really going to help you to optimize your gut health, and then focusing on nutritious foods and things like that. And you can see that you're starting from this point of maybe focusing on calories and focusing on protein and fats and things like that. But then you've really got to take it to this next level to really optimize things. So you're looking at fiber, you're looking at reducing your alcohol intake if it is maybe slightly on the excessive side, shall we say. If you've got gut health issues, it's about reducing your caffeine intake and seeing if that works. So you're trying these simple things. So what I would say, take away from this is you are an individual. Take away from this that gurus across the internet maybe don't know as much as they let on, or at least they are maybe twisting, contorting evidence, or making very, very strong assertions based on weak evidence. So that would be what I would say is the evidence-based approach to gut health. If you have any questions about this, then my place for hanging out is over on Instagram. You can come and find me at iron_paradise_fitness. Come and say hi. Ask me a bunch of questions and I'll gladly help you out. And if you want more information on nutrition, and if you want more information on dealing with things like cravings, you want recipe packs, all that sort of stuff, I've put a link to my Lean Life Kickstarter pack in the notes, which you can download for free, have a bunch of information sent to you over the course of 7 days about nutrition, as well as a free 4-week training program. So if you want that, go grab that. The link is in the comment section here. But for now, all I'll say is keep living the lean life, and I'll see you for the next one.